Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. 4:31 a.m. Wednesday, October the 8th. I hope you're having a great start to your Wednesday morning. And I'm grinning and I'm giggling a little bit this morning because yesterday I thought about running to my camera 3 times as some stories broke. 3 significant things I'm going to talk about here briefly. One of them just very briefly in just a moment. And I almost did videos yesterday, but I'd already recorded 2. And other people ran to their microphones and their cameras to record stuff. That's what they do all day long. I don't. I was out doing yard work yesterday. And all I thought yesterday, and I thought I should do videos. And then I thought, you know what? Canada's a dumpster fire today. It will be a dumpster fire when I wake up tomorrow morning. And it is. Okay. And I'm going to show you the 3 things that prove it's a dumpster fire. I have my big blue mug of coffee if you're wondering. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe. So let's talk about the Mark and Donald show, number 1 on the list. So Mark Carney goes off to Washington. He sits down with Donald Trump. And the expectation of people in the news media is some kind of deal is going to be made. The tariffs will come down and finally this will be behind us. And as of this point right now, as it hits 4:37 in the morning, there's no deal. Now, apparently they're still talking. There could be some kind of a deal. Now, I talked about this yesterday. If there is a deal, Donald Trump and the United States will have the upper hand. Canada will still be a dumpster fire if Mark Carney doesn't come home with a deal. Canada is still a dumpster fire. Do I care either way? No, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me at all. Now, here's what you also need to understand here. The people that say they're the elbows up people, the people who say they love Canada would rather see Canada go down in flames than Mark Carney make nice with Donald Trump, who they hate. And they hate the United States just as much. And here's the thing, folks, you need to understand this. This is how much of a dumpster fire this country is right now. They hate you if you don't like Mark Carney and you don't vote Liberal and you like Pierre Poilievre. So much so that they're increasingly referring to you as somebody who's a member of the Third Reich. That's where we are in this country right now. People who voted Liberal in April hate Donald Trump more than they like Mark Carney. And I think they're perfectly fine with Mark Carney not coming away with a deal. They'd rather the dumpster fire continue here in Canada. And they perpetuate the dumpster fire. Now, I want to show you. Here's the Donald Trump in this sit down here. He praises Mark Carney. I think he likes that Mark Carney is the leader of this country because he can pilfer the country better with Mark Carney because he knows Mark Carney needs him. Donald Trump knows Mark Carney needs him because it's the only way he remains popular. But this is an incredibly honest moment from Donald Trump yesterday. Check this out.
But it's an honor to have the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who I have made very popular. He's an extremely popular Prime Minister.
He is. You know, Mark Carney has made Donald Trump an incredibly powerful man in the heads of liberals. Donald Trump lives rent-free in their brains. They stew in their hatred for Donald Trump while the conservatives are sitting back and enjoying the fall weather. But that's one of the most honest things I've ever heard. But here's where we are when it comes to liberals and their delusion. Check this. You see a lot of this online. This is just one tweet, but this is everywhere. This is delusional. This is what people think of Mark Carney. This is why the country's a dumpster fire, and there's no salvation at this point, folks. Donald Trump is scared of Mark Carney. Watch the body language, the responses. Even Trump knows that he is severely outmatched. So he resorts to some levity to ease the stress. Carney plays along like a musician playing a fiddle. The country is a dumpster fire. It's lost, folks. Now let's move on to number 2 today. That will be the Danielle Smith show. We move on now to Danielle Smith, my premier. And don't get me wrong, I admire Danielle Smith. I'm glad she's my premier. I just think she's terrific. She's very smart. She went to Ottawa the other day just before Carney ran off to Washington, begging for a pipeline from Mark Carney, which just turns my stomach. We have to ask Mark Carney and the Liberal parties in Ottawa in the eastern part of Canada for Alberta prosperity. We beg for it. It drives me crazy. She talked to the media yesterday, and here's the story from the National Post this morning. You remember originally she gave 6 months to get rid of the 9 bad laws. It's going on 7 months, and by the time we get to the Grey Cup, it'll be 8 months, and we're still begging, and we haven't got a yes yet from Mark Carney to get rid of these 9 bad laws. Why? Well, I'll tell you this. I came up with something this morning, I mentioned it earlier, that Mark Carney has gotten everything he wanted. And I'm going to prove it to you in just a moment. I'm surprised nobody else has thought of this. So here's Danielle Smith talking about this, going over the benefits to the country, and saying that we need a yes from Mark Carney.
When you look at the value of bitumen, we believe that this project, if we could build it at 1 million barrels a day, even at today's prices, that would generate $20 billion a year for the Canadian economy, of which the governments take about 40%, and it's about half that goes to the federal government and half that goes to the provincial government. So that is a very high value, long-term return that all it takes is the Prime Minister to say yes.
What if he doesn't say yes? I want her to, somebody ask her what happens if he doesn't say yes. Surely there's somebody out there who's going to say, Premier Smith, if you're turned down on these 9 bad laws, what happens? What are you going to, now she says she's going to build a pipeline to the United States. That's what she says. We'll pump more oil to the United States. We really need to get it somewhere else, but we'll pump more oil to the United States. Danielle Smith, come out today and say, we want bids on the pipeline to the United States. We need some investment. It'll happen like that because nothing will be in the way. So what does Danielle do? She's asked about David Eby, who's being a real a-hole, who's got the same, it's all the same shtick now, which is exactly what Mark Carney wanted before he became Prime Minister. Stay tuned. What's David Eby's shtick? He started it. There's no investment in a pipeline. Why are we talking about this? Our energy minister, Tim Hodgson, energy minister, who isn't really interested in energy, says the same thing. Mark Carney says the same thing. There's no investment. So what are we talking about this for? So what does Danielle? She's asked about David Eby, and she plays the unCanadian card.
Premier Eby obviously is really ramping up his criticism of your pipeline proposal, calling it a fantasy. So how are you going to deal with the politics of that, given that you feel so strongly against this idea?
Well, I think Premier Eby's comments are un-Canadian and they're unconstitutional. I think that the Supreme Court has determined that the reason we have a country and have given trade and commerce power and control over ports and interprovincial infrastructure to the federal government is for exactly this reason, so that a parochial premier isn't able to block nation-building projects.
But he is, and he's been given license by the Prime Minister of the country, okay? But David Eby counters with the fallacy that is Team Canada. This is what he had to say. And again, he's spitting fire here, folks. He's having none of it from Alberta.
Let's at least make sure that the conversation is about a real project. Right now, the province of BC, the Premier of BC, is not a threat to the pipeline project of the Premier of Alberta because there is no pipeline project. There is a public relations department. There is a Crown Corporation with $14 million. The only way currently that project is going forward is with tens of billions of dollars of public money. It's not the Danielle Smith show, it's the Canadian team. And we all deserve the same opportunity for the same federal funding for our projects as she does for hers. That's not un-Canadian, that is fair, and there is nothing more Canadian than fairness. That is a core national value.
Danielle Smith has made it quite clear that it would be a failure if we have to pour tens of billions of dollars of taxpayers' money into a pipeline. All she wants is this guy to get the hell out of the way, but he won't. But he played the Team Canada card. I'm going to say it again, folks. There's no freaking Team Canada. If you're on Team Canada, if you voted Liberal, there's no Team Canada. You have to have the same freaking goal. Does this guy have the same goal? Prosperity that Danielle Smith, the Premier of my province, has? No. And we certainly don't have the same thing in common with Ottawa, the Liberals, and Mark Carney. Now, let me ask you this. Do you remember GFANZ? This, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero. This is Mark Carney's baby. Not anymore. In fact, I think they're under congressional investigation. What was this organization about? This was an organization to basically pressure companies to not invest in pipelines. And Mark Carney has got it here in Canada right now because he's not getting rid of the nine bad laws, and he is in control of what gets built in this country because of Bill C-5 now. He got everything he wanted. This has gone down. I think it's now defunct G-Fans, but he's got exactly what he wants. No investment in pipelines in this country. The dumpster fire continues. Let's move on to number 3, the convoy organizers. Last on the list, the convoy organizers. That was a thing yesterday. Almost ran to the camera yesterday. But again, I think even more than the first two things, Trump, Carney, and Danielle Smith and pipelines, this one proves that Canada is a dumpster fire. Because this was an infringement of people's rights. Now, the people who were against the convoy said you didn't have a right to block off Ottawa for weeks at a time. But all that Tamara and Chris wanted was to talk to the government because they had a grievance and the government wouldn't talk to them. I remember saying that during the convoy. All Trudeau has to do to end this is to talk to these people, but Trudeau wanted to prove a point. He wanted to use the Emergencies Act. He wanted to bring the full weight of the government down on these people and to prove that the government can do it and use it against the right and people that supported the convoy in perpetuity, and they still use it today. The keyboard warriors wanted to see these people go to jail for 7 and 8 years. They wanted to see them hung. They were traitors. No doubt they're still rolling up their sleeves to get injections. But I would like to thank Chris and Tamara for taking a bullet for us. The process is the punishment, folks. They've had their names dragged through the mud for years at great cost, I'm sure. Their lives have been upside down, and they've got some house arrest now. I think it's too much. The restrictions on their lives for the next year are over the top. They better be careful they don't step across the line, or they'll end up in court and they'll end up in jail. And the people on the left would be happy to see it happen. Canada, the dumpster fire, folks. And you know what? The dumpster fire just gets bigger every day. It never ends. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 37,000 subscribers. I'll see you in the next one.